Some synthesizers and effects pedals have features that can be random. There'll be some aspect of it that can be set to run randomly. And a lot of times, if you dive in and turn that up, it ends up sounding like this. Which, in my opinion, was so chaotic that it was uninteresting. It's like you hear it for 1 second, you immediately figure out that it's random, and then you just tune it out. But in this video, I'm going to show you 5 pro tips for using randomness and for thinking about how to use randomness that will make it sound interesting and great. Pro tip number 1 is a great way to use randomness is in a slow, random vibrato. This might be the most subtle trick in the whole video, but the way I like to do it is to use a slow, random vibrato in a song that otherwise has a lot of programmed parts that are going to be executed perfectly in time, or like software synthesizers or digital synthesizers that are going to be perfectly in tune no matter what. You can fight against some of the rigid, perfect sameness of all that with a random vibrato that'll drift in and out of tune the whole time. So for the example you're about to hear, I'm using the Ultrasheer. This is a random vibrato. I have mine set so that the depth is kind of high, but the rate is very slow. And you're going to hear it go in and out. It's going to be a little out of tune at times. But in my opinion, it's the cool version of out of tune. It's almost like a high-level performance on a fretless instrument, or almost like a voice in the days before auto-tune. Of course, I'm not using a voice or a fretless instrument. I'm using the OP1 synth. And I'm also going to run it through the Benson Preamp. Now, there's nothing random about this, but it is going to help with the same overall project of trying to make stuff sound less virtual and more in the world. And the reason why the Benson Preamp is cool is that it just breaks things up in a way that sounds very natural and beautiful. So just a little bit of distortion from this is also going to make that OP1 sound like a real thing. Also, if you're wondering why I have a black eye in this video, it's because I've been spending time at this place. Pro tip number 2 is if you're going to randomize something, restrict the thing you're randomizing as narrowly as possible. In other words, don't randomize your note choice and then randomize the filter on your synthesizer and then put a random vibrato on top of that. Just pick one of those things. And if you can, lock the randomness somehow into some other musical part of the song you're working on. A classic example would be match the speed of the randomness to the tempo of the song. That's exactly what I did in the thing you're about to hear. I was using the Replay synthesizer, which has a random LFO in it. I hooked up the random LFO to the filter settings. So how my filter was set was continually, randomly fluctuating. And then, just using my ear, I tried to find the spot on the speed dial where the randomness matched the tempo of the song. And the result didn't sound like a random filter. It sounded rhythmic. It sounded like some very sophisticated, syncopated part was being written. By the way, if you want to buy any of the gear in this video, I have affiliate links you can use that'll give me a small commission on anything you buy. Not just synthesizers and effects pedals either. I've also got links for cables, smaller stuff like that. I'll put the affiliate links in the video description. Money. For pro tip number 3, we're going to talk about random arpeggios. This is another great way to restrict the randomness and force it to play by certain musical rules while it's going crazy. So first what I'm going to do is set up the sequencer in my OP1 synth so that anytime I play one note, it arpeggiates a major chord out of that note. Bonus pro tip, you might notice that I made the arpeggio 5 notes long. That's just because 5s can be cool. You'll see in a minute that the 5-ness of it will add a sort of propulsive quality to it. But anyway, the point is, set up an arpeggio that'll make a major chord at anytime you play a single note. Then you can tell it, instead of playing those notes in the dinky order, play them in a random order. Now, even though I'm using the OP1 to do this, there's really nothing unusual about this. Many synthesizers that have some kind of sequencing in them will be able to do this. What happens now is, even though it's random, you can control it. You can pick which notes you want to play, and it'll only make a major chord out of those notes. So what you're about to hear is an excerpt of a song I'm working on for my next record that uses this exact trick. Pro tip number 4 is, I think everybody should get the random tone generator that Electro Harmonics makes. Money. There's a specific type of training you can do as a musician that I think you should do that requires having this, which is, can you make this sound like it's an instrument? Now, what it is a pedal that has no input. You can't plug your guitar into it. You can't plug anything into it. It only has an output. And what it outputs is just a random stream of notes. And it only has 3 controls. It's barely controllable. It has an on-off, it has a knob for speed, and it has a switch called glide, which just controls whether it teleports from each random note to the next one or whether it slides from each random note to the next one. So the challenge is, can you take those 3 controls and make it sound like you're producing phrases with the random tone generator? I think it's possible to get there, and what you're about to hear me play is like a solo I take with the random tone generator. Now, I should warn you, this might be one of those times where you think that what you're hearing is bullshit. I think it's possible to make it sound like the random tone generator is speaking a language, and in what you're about to hear me play, I demonstrate that to my own satisfaction, but I don't know if you're going to buy it. Also, I should mention I'm running the random tone generator into a fuzz pedal. I'm running it into the Unpleasant Surprise from Fairfield Circuitry just to make it sound cooler. Pro tip number 5 is, if you've made it this far, you're ready to start making your own discoveries. And one thing that'll make that easy and fun is the sidestep. The sidestep is just an automatic expression pedal. It does what an expression pedal does, but you can set it to run by itself. And it can run randomly. So another way to think about this is that it's an external random LFO, you can hook up to any other pedal that'll take expression pedals. This is a great way to breathe new life into the pedals in your collection and find new uses for randomness. One discovery I made while I was working on this video came from hooking the sidestep up to the Alexander Space Force. This is a reverb pedal I've had for a while. I thought I'd figured out everything it can do for me. Then I started using its modulated reverb, and I used the sidestep to randomly change the size of the reverb. And that alone turned out to sound really cool.